Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya here from the Soonerscoop.com studios on Campus Quarter. We just cut a instant reaction to some of the Big 12 tiebreaker stuff. If you want to click on that, it's uploaded. It's right below the video that you're watching now. Welcome back. God bless this conference. What a bunch of scumbags, huh?
I've said my piece, Eddie. If you want to hear how I think about the Big 12.
I thought we were going to try to get arrested.
I mean, we might. Who knows when we walk out of here. But you should definitely check out that video. I try my best to explain it in the simplest way.
It is confusing.
And
it is confusing.
We'll probably need to do another instant reaction tomorrow after we hear from the Big 12 and what exactly rules they're changing not changing.
You think they F it up even more?
Oh, 100%. 100%. The people in charge over there are definitely going to screw this up. So
that's great. Well, Oklahoma does have 2 games left into the regular season. They're now 8-2, 5-2, as most of you probably know. We did talk to Brent Venables on Tuesday as Oklahoma gets into BYU week. First trip to Provo coming up. Yep. I look forward to it. I am excited about the trip to Provo, if nothing else, just because it's something new.
I've heard it's beautiful. Yeah. The site, like the pictures we've
100%.
seen, the view from the press box and down on the field, it looks amazing. I think the atmosphere will be great. We'll see. I guess, BYU's not having the best season, but it should be a lot of fun and big game for Oklahoma. They coming off a really good performance, maybe, their best performance other than Texas this season. I don't think people are giving them enough credit. West Virginia's a good football team, and they destroyed them. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they keep that momentum, especially against a team that I don't think is near as good as West Virginia.
I think it's a much cleaner game. I think it was probably the most complete game.
Most efficient.
Efficient of the year. You had the special teams issues in the Cotton Bowl down in Dallas. You had the special teams issues on Saturday night with Gavin Freeman dropping a couple punts. But outside of that, from an offensive and defensive perspective, really, really good complete effort.
Especially from the offense. I know we want to get into that a bit. They were really efficient. I think they had their most total yardage. I think they scored on, 9 of 12 possessions. 8 of those were touchdowns. They were moving the ball at will. Dylan Gabriel, obviously a career day. And now you're just curious, can they keep that momentum? Because we've seen this offense be good before, and then we've seen them go through, like a 3-week stretch that we saw where they were not any good, and It ended up costing them 2 games. So can they keep that consistency going? Can Dylan Gabriel continue to build off his big performance? Drake Stoops, we'll get into him in a little bit, has become the X factor for this offense. Can he, end up having a career season as he finishes up his time at OU?
A really good effort from 2 guys specifically on the offensive side of the ball, and they were recognized by Brent Venables. We're talking about Dylan Gabriel as well as Drake Stoops, and you might hear from him as well, talking about Gavin Sawchuk, an Oklahoma running game that is starting to come into form. Better late than never.
Dylan and Drake, obviously, they were 2 of our standouts on offense, and congratulations to Dylan for being the Davey O'Brien, national quarterback of the week, and also along with being the offensive player of the week. And again, Drake, some of the things that he's been able to do this year for a coach's kid. Caveat leads the Big 12 in receptions and touchdown receptions as well. And again, the last couple of weeks he leads the nation in receptions and touchdown receptions. But again, Dylan has done outstanding all year. In total offense, 341 yards a game. Has passed for a little over 300 yards a game, 36 touchdowns, both running and throwing, and completing a little over 70% of his passes. And so, really, I don't send out a whole lot of, great jobs and fist bumps and man hugs. I usually look at the flaws and the areas that we're weak and where we need to be better. Certainly, that's who I am. But I would like to just recognize, Dylan becoming, a top 10 player in FBS history as well in several categories. That's a big deal. And I said it on my radio show, last night. this is a place that's represented a lot of offensive superlatives, justifiably so, in college football history. There's been a bunch of good ones, to say the least, and Dylan ranks right there alongside those guys. I do think that there's something to getting in a groove, if you will. I don't know what that's like. If I'm trying to get a linebacker in their groove, I'll just blitz him in the A gap and usually disrupt something. I think running back's a little bit different than that, and there's a timing aspect, there's a practice aspect, an element that's important, getting hit and the timing and how blocks move and things of that nature. Again, you asked the question, so I'm kind of thinking through it, but I think all of that is important. And then, again, I think the players surrounding them are a big part of it too. But so battling back from, kind of a nagging injury and getting in the flow, and it's not easy because as a coach, you're trying to find out who's most ready right now in this moment, and there's one running back on the field at a time. So having some patience along the way for Gavin, he's got a great support system, amazing family, and DeMarco does a good job of holding guys accountable and letting them know. Most of the time, I think they know exactly where they stand and what maybe they need to work on. So, but good for him from a maturity standpoint and being prepared for his opportunity, and then hanging in there and getting a little bit better. The more that he's played.
Couple things real quick on Dylan Gabriel, third Big 12 Player of the Week honor. He was named the Davey O'Brien Quarterback of the Week as well, as Brent talked about. He has 36 touchdowns this year. He's accounted for 36 touchdowns. It's 8 more than any player in the Big 12. A really good season in totality. And I know that, they're coming out of this stretch where they lost the 2 games in Lawrence and Stillwater. Probably hasn't played as well as people thought he would on both of those red games. Didn't get much help from his offense coordinator. We've talked about that, George. What's been lost in the mix a little bit, and we're going to get to Drake Stoops here in a second, it's been lost a little bit just in terms of what Gavin Sawchuk's been able to do. Back-to-back games now, over 100 carries. I thought he played extremely well last week against West Virginia, had the 22 for 135, and he still averaged 8.5 a carry, going for the 13 carries, 111 yards in Bedlam.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's been their number one guy the last couple weeks, and I think he's going to be their guy moving forward. I don't know how injured Tawi Walker is. It's clear he's still trying to recover from that ankle injury. But, I think Gavin is a guy that you look at the end of this year and even going into next year, because I know a lot of people are already starting to think about what does next year look like. He's their guy. And I think that the more carries he gets, the better he gets as the game goes on, it seems. He gets into more of a rhythm, kind of like what Brent was just talking about. And that's what makes it kind of head-scratching, is like, why wasn't he getting more carries? It sounds like he was dealing with a hamstring injury early in the season.
Sure.
Now he's feeling healthy. Hamstrings are one of those things that it takes a while, and if you come back too fast, you can kind of re-injure it, and it kind of nags you for a bit. So I think that he's healthy. He's feeling good. He's getting more carries. I think 22 carries this last week is the most he's ever had in a game in his career at OU. So I think that that's going to continue to be the case, and he's a guy that they clearly feel they can rely on.
No doubt about it. And obviously Taylor Tatum, the nation's number 1 running back out of Longview, will be joining the party in 2024. Xavier Robinson from just up the street at Carl Albert in Midwest City, as well as Andy Bass over at Heritage Hall. So
it's also no coincidence, just real quickly, that he's having this success he has, and the offensive line has started finally coming together.
Sure, and they played extremely well on Saturday. Jacob Sexton getting the start at right tackle in place of Tyler Guyton. That was kind of interesting, talking to McCaid Matlock yesterday. I think it was a question that you might have even asked in terms of just getting comfortable with Jacob next to him. They roomed together, Jacob Sexton and McCaid Matlock. So it'll be interesting. Does Sexton get the start again if Tyler Guyton's able to go? I know that Brent Venables said on his Monday Night Coaches show that they expect Tyler Guyton to make the start in Provo on Saturday, but McCaid Matlock kind of hinted at maybe working with Sexton again this week.
Yeah, I would not be shocked if we see Sexton. Wouldn't be shocked if we see Tyler Guyton. Now, I don't know what's going to play out there. We should also say McCaid Matlock will not be suspended for his ejection.
Which I didn't know that was even a thing. He said last night in the media scrum that he had just found out from Oklahoma Sports Information Director Mike Houck that he wasn't going to be suspended for getting ejected, which was, let's be honest, it was kind of an all-time moment. He apologized for it last night. I appreciate the apology, but I know that you don't mean it, McCaid. I appreciate you.
We'll see, too. Maybe the Big 12 will change the rule and he will be suspended.
That would be amazing.
He'd never be able to play again. Big 12's out to get OU.
That would be amazing. And by the way, Jacob Sexton as well as Caden Green, a true freshman, named captain for Oklahoma's game coming up this weekend against BYU. So let's get back to Drake Stoops, because I thought that Brent Venables gave a eloquent, if I guess that would be the word to use, kind of answer. It's about a 4-minute answer just in terms of what he knew about Drake Stoops when he was over at Clemson, watching Drake come up through Norman North High School and then eventually walking on at Oklahoma.
Me and my boys, we'd always be watching, and if there was something on Twitter or something, we would share with each other. Just a baller, just always doing, the little things right. And like, oh man, that was a nice little play he had there. Whether he's cracking somebody to set up a big run or a screen play, or, making, the third down catch, or, making the ordinary, the extraordinary catch look ordinary. And then, his ability to run after the catch is different. He bounces off of guys. He breaks a lot of tackles. He runs through trash, can make guys miss in a phone booth. And then his toughness and grit that he represents, man, that's what you want your whole program. What program doesn't want to represent that? Have people, players that represent that. And he's been the model of consistency on top of that. And, he commented, in an interview about being up here 10 hours a day. He's not joking. He's working on his body. He's watching extra film. He's building relationships with his teammates. He loves all of it. And he's exhausting this moment in his life. And I love that, as opposed to being hurry up to get on to the next thing like everybody else tries to get you to do, to chase the bag and to be self-centered. He's like, no, college is too fun. I've got a lot of developing still to do. I can always get better. The one shot that I might have to make the NFL, the best league on the planet, I'm going to be as prepared as I can possibly be. There are no mulligans. You don't get it. Well, let me try this again and see if I can get drafted again or make a team again. You get one chance. So make the most of college, which, as we all know, is the most transformational time of your life. It should, through relationships, through experiences, through education, it's going to be one of the most enriching times of your life, and it really help propel you for the rest of your life. So he's got wisdom beyond his years. He certainly has a great network of people that have helped him. He's not one that's shy about asking others' opinion, but he's a strong young man, and that's made a decision to be excellent at what he does and value all the opportunities that he's had. Not everybody's like that. A lot of people get the opportunity, but not everybody takes advantage of it and has the kind of toughness and determination that a guy like Drake Stoops has, and he's had to overcome a lot too. One being a coach's kid, right? He walked on, but he never was bitter about the things that he's had to overcome. And some people, he's allowed his name and his opportunity to be a blessing as opposed to block his own blessing. Because I'm mad at everybody. He hadn't been that way. He's like, I can have an opportunity to do this. I'm gonna show you. And when it's time to compete, he loves to compete, and he don't care who it's against. But he's a great teammate, just an amazing teammate. And I told him, I said, when you're done with football, when this amazing game is done, man, you're going to have a line of people from here to Padre Island ready to hire you, because what you bring to any environment is excellence. And you'll figure it out, whatever it is, if it's coaching, if it's oil and gas, if it's, financials, whatever it is, he's going to be really, really good. So just, I wanted to recognize him in front of the team here recently, because I don't want to wait to the funeral to give him flowers, or the end of the banquet. In the middle of it, I want guys to have an appreciation, and I hopefully you've planted a few seeds. Like, man, I can be like that. That's a choice, and so he's been amazing. Oklahoma has. Been a benefactor of having Drake Stoops in that locker room.
Truly an unbelievable run that he's been on here. Over the last 2 weeks, leads the country in receptions with 22 in games against Oklahoma State and West Virginia. The national leader in touchdowns with the 4 touchdowns that he scored, the 3 last week and then the 1 in Bedlam. Leads the Big 12 currently in receptions on the year with 62, as well as touchdown catches with 9 so far. He leads the Big 12. So truly kind of a cool story. I think that, I would be lying if I sat here and told you that I watched him over at Norman North alongside his brother Isaac and said that, he was going to lead the Big 12 in receptions in his 6th year at Oklahoma. It's been a really good run for Drake.
He's been incredible. And I think that his leadership this year has been really important. Even last year, being a guy that's seen, the top of this thing get to a Big 12 championship, get to a college football playoff. He was on those teams. To see the lowest of lows last year in the losing season, and then this year become really a foundational piece of this program, I think has been massive. And, you look at the last couple of weeks, he's a big reason why they were in the Bedlam game, right?
No doubt.
He had a great game.
No doubt.
And then this last week, he was the superstar. So he's been awesome. I think he should be first team all Big 12. You read off the stats. He clearly has the stats to back it up. But I think he's also just somebody that the locker room is going to miss when he leaves. I mean, not only a guy that can go out there and make a big play on 3rd down and score and do all those great things, but clearly, I mean, we played the clip last week of him talking about how much there is to play for.
Yeah.
That kind of mentality. Not to say that other guys don't have that same mentality, but that voice in that locker room, it's going to be interesting to see if anybody can try and fill those shoes, because those are pretty big shoes to fill.
The 298 yards over the last 2 weeks is 6th most nationally. And, think about all the stuff, too, that kind of became like the characteristics of a Drake Stoops player in that, before he started making all these catches, he was the guy that was busting his ass and blocking downfield, doing things to pop open bigger plays for other players.
Yeah, you think back, the one I think of is the Kennedy Brooks run in 2021.
Sure.
He was the leading blocker.
Down in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl, right?
He was the leading blocker on a couple of those touchdown runs, but specifically the game winner.
Sure.
So, one of his best plays. You think of the 2020 game, he scores the 2-point conversion.
The 2-point conversion, and then ultimately the game-winning touchdown in the Cotton Bowl as well.
He's had some phenomenal moments. Just been a great player. Like you said, I don't think anybody, maybe other than himself, maybe his dad, even thought that he could go and do what he's done these last 6 years. I think he's
no doubt.
It's been awesome, and again, one of those guys. He's got maybe 3, possibly 4 games left in an Oklahoma uniform. So hopefully he goes out. I was looking at the stats the other day. I think he could end up finishing top 10 in receptions in a season this year, which would be put him in the he just tied CeeDee Lamb, who had 62 in 2019. He's already at 62 right now. He could get all the way up to 7th, which is 80, which would tie D.D. Westbrook. So you're talking about being in a very top tier class.
No doubt about it. And let me say something controversial. And I don't even think this is controversial. If Bob and Carol want to have another kid and send them to Oklahoma, I don't think Oklahoma fans would have a problem with that.
I think they'd love it. I think that would be awesome.
Now, they might have to wait 18 years,
Yeah.
but
he'd probably be great.
And we'll raise them over here at the Sooner Scoop offices, Maybe we could be godparents. You ever thought about that?
Sounds like a job for Carrie.
That's exactly right. That caught me off guard. Well played. Well played. That would be good. From one of the oldest players in the program to one of the youngest players in the program, obviously the freshman, Jackson Arnold. He was talked about on Tuesday by Brent Venables. The decision is to redshirt the freshman quarterback.
Interesting one. I think one that we weren't exactly expecting, but it's also one that it doesn't really matter.
That's right. That's right. And I think that this has become a thing where, I'm sure that the Facebooks are going to have a heyday with this. And then it's on top of the question from Curtis Fitzpatrick today to Brent Venables and talking about, would Dylan Gabriel possibly think about coming back for another season? And this is going all the way back into August when Brent Venables basically came out, and he was kind of one of the first people that said this is his final year, right? And so this just adds to the fervor, I think, the discussion, the discourse, if you will, on the interwebs. But I don't see it as a big deal. You don't want him taking snaps of consequence over the next 2 games or possibly 3 games if you're playing in a Big 12 championship. I think that becomes a little bit different, though, once you get to a bowl game. Maybe you add in a package like you saw at the beginning of the year when they were trying to use him like Blake Bell and like kind of a Belldozer-esque package, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it also is one of those things that if they needed, like let's say Dylan Gabriel got hurt this weekend, I think they'd play him.
100%.
They want to win the game.
100%.
I think it's one of those situations where it played out where they didn't really need him. Dylan was playing really well. They were in some really tight games where you can't really just, because I think everybody just assumed, oh, well, they're going to, play him for a couple series here and there. When they have 3 weeks of, games that they're in really tight games, they were never going to do that.
Right.
And I think this is how it played out. And then they looked at it and they said, you know what, we have a chance to redshirt him. Why not? Especially considering, maybe he gets hurt in one of these seasons, something happens where, he can't play or whatever. You're going to want that red shirt. So I don't really think it's a big deal. Other people are making a big deal about it. Sounds like Jackson has kind of accepted it. He's kind of embraced it, and he's still getting reps in practice. I know everybody wants him to start preparing for the SEC and all that comes with that. But
taking snaps at the end of the fourth quarter when you're up by 39, I don't think that's exactly going to get you ready to go play on a Saturday night in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. I mean, they did that with Spencer Rattler a few years ago. And he came in and played great, I think, in a few games.
Sure.
And then the next year he was not great. So it's like when he was the starter.
And you were chanting from the stands to put in Caleb.
Exactly.
I remember
I was leading that. But that's the point. Is like I don't think the difference is next year is going to be Jackson Arnold getting some snaps against West Virginia up 40.
No doubt about it.
That's not going to happen.
Here is Brent Venables kind of talking about the idea of redshirting Jackson Arnold a little bit more in depth on Tuesday.
His development and a lot of that is the course of the season and how things have gone, and you're always trying to be mindful of that of every player. And sometimes you can potentially, do it, and then sometimes that was the plan, and then there's disaster happens, and then you got to make a hard right-hand turn. And so you're always looking at plan A, plan B, and best case scenario, worst case scenario. But he's still been able to take all the the reps, just in case, something unforeseen happens, and so he can stay ready. He's had tremendous growth and maturity. We give him a ton of reps. We do a lot of good on good, and we don't hold back. Oh, okay, well, Jackson's and let's make it easy on him. That's not what we do. We don't make it harder. We just do what we do, and it's all hard. But he's responded. He has a wonderful attitude about all of it. He sees the growth in himself, tremendous growth and maturity, both as a young person and then as a leader and as a football player. Jeff has done a great job having him in a great mindset and having him continue to work and stay hungry and driven. And so he doesn't spend any less time, here. He spends, a lot of extra time staying ready and just continue to develop himself.
And I think that's probably the way that ultimately needed to go.
Yeah.
Thank God that he hasn't had to be thrown into the action as well as Dylan Gabriel has played, despite the discourse out there on the internets.
He's been great. I think Dylan has been amazing, and that again is we go back to the offseason, right? And you mentioned the discourse. The discourse was, well, how many games until Dylan Gabriel's benched for Jackson Arnold? Well, Dylan's been so good that he, was never going to be benched in the first place. But I think it's all going to work out. I'm not worried about Jackson Arnold.
And I would say, too, that, I think, and you've probably heard the same thing that I have, I think everybody is extremely excited about Jackson Arnold in the future
phenomenal.
That comes starting whenever this season ends, right? I mean, you can basically pass a baton from Dylan Gabriel to Jackson Arnold.
The talent is obviously there. You watch him throw the football, and it's just different. He has more talent than Dylan Gabriel. That's just a fact. But the maturity, the growth as a player, learning the system, that's really valuable. And he's done that this year, and it sounds like he's really started to pick it up. And I expect this to be his football team starting in January.
And I would be absolutely floored if we get the opportunity to talk to him at a bowl game or something like that he doesn't say, yeah, I needed this year to learn from Dylan, say all the things that, the boxes will all be checked in what you would expect somebody like a 5-star freshman taking over for a, 5th, 6th year guy like a Dylan Gabriel.
I also don't, and we're just about to get into some of the Jeff Lebby stuff. I know that that's been out there too about, well, if Jeff Lebby leaves, would Jackson Arnold leave? I get the sense that Jackson Arnold loves Oklahoma. He wants to be at Oklahoma. He's not going to leave Oklahoma. You never say never with those sort of things in the transfer portal era, but I do think that he knows, and I think a lot of people in that building know it's his football team next year at a major program, and I think he is starting to prepare for that.
Let's get into some of the Jeff Lebby stuff and how that connects with the coaching carousel that is now here in college football. Jimbo Fisher getting fired, Zach Arnett getting fired by Mississippi State on Monday, and this is ultimately strange just because of the fact that they just played each other. They coached in that game knowing that they were, or not knowing that both of them would not have jobs come Monday afternoon. And, that kind of leads into the speculation. Would Jeff Lebby be interested in a Mississippi State job? Would, whoever on the Oklahoma staff? And I've always said, and we talked about this on the way over to practice yesterday, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
When your assistant coaches are being courted by schools to be the leader of their program.
It means that you're successful as a program, you're winning football games, and it also means that you've got a pretty good staff, right? That's well respected. And we'll see what happens. The coaching carousel this time of year is always interesting. It's probably a little too early to totally get into it, but Texas A&M's open, Mississippi State's open. Sounds like as we were recording this, UCLA is going to come open. I
am a donor to the UCLA program. I donate $2 every year to them, to the Bruin program, and I would like to see them. I would like to see them make a good hire.
Yeah, me too. And I mean,
especially with that son of a bitch across town. You know what I mean? You know who I'm talking about? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I do, Eddie. I'm not going to say his name. TBOW.
That's right.
But UCLA, Arkansas, I think could have come open, which would be a very interesting one with Lebby too. But the one that's been, I guess, most talked about for Lebby is Mississippi State. And that's because of the obvious connections. He coached at Ole Miss, so he knows his Mississippi State program. But Zach Selman, the athletic director at Mississippi State, was obviously at Oklahoma. He was the right-hand man to Joe Castiglione when Joe C. hired Brent Venables and his entire staff. So Zach Selman was in on Jeff Lebby's interview to be the offensive coordinator at OU. He obviously knows Jeff pretty well, is very familiar with the Oklahoma people, so I'm sure he could call up Joe C. and be like, hey, what do you think? Those sorts of things. We'll see. I mean, I haven't heard anything specific about that, but that's kind of the one that I think everybody's kind of drawing the lines to right now.
Well, who better to ask about how he's going to handle this than Brent Venables? He's been through this time and time again. I mean, it feels like, even when he was back at Clemson, even when he was here in Norman the first time around, his name would always come up. And you asked him today at his press conference, what kind of advice does he give his assistants that are possibly being, pursued by other programs?
There's a time for everything. Be committed to where your feet are. You ask your players to do that, then you do the same. That's what I would say. Don't be a vagabond coach. Build something. Stand for something. Have some roots somewhere. Be loyal to the players and the people that gave you your opportunity. And this will be a game and a career and a profession that will honor that in the long haul. And, just like, you tell your team every year, you got goals and you got, expectations, and you try to create vision. How do you get to the top of that mountain? One step at a time. There ain't no shortcuts. But I don't know. It's just everybody's different, But for me, I want to go somewhere and call somewhere home. And I would think that who wouldn't want that? A stable environment where you got great support, you got great players, you're in a wonderful day-to-day environment. Don't screw it up. Don't screw up happy. And even if it's for a little more money or another title. That's how I've always looked at it. So I'm not, contradicting, my actions, for over 30 years. And so that's what we're not having those conversations right now, but we talk about that a lot in the out of season. And you're talking about philosophy and values and standards and expectations. That's what, I would say.
Do you think you have any
head coaches on future head coaches?
Oh,
on
sure, without question.
Do you take
No
that as a
doubt.
compliment when, I guess, part of your staff comes up in those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I don't spend a whole lot of time on it, but thinking, but I know we have excellent coaches. That doesn't surprise me. All of them have had opportunity, both while they've been here and prior to coming here. And so that wouldn't shock me about opportunities here down the road, things that you have to deal with that are part of being in this position too.
Another great question by myself.
Okay. No, it was. It was a good question. TLDR on that. Don't take another job just to take another job, right?
Correct. And you look at what Brent's done, he's always taken a job that he has felt was the best interest in his career. He's waited for the right job.
Sure.
You think back to even his time at Kansas State. I remember, I was not alive, but him telling the story that, he could have gone with Jim Leavitt to, I believe, where was it? USF or whatever.
South Florida.
And he stuck at Kansas State, waited around, ended up getting to go with Bob Stoops to Oklahoma, sticks at Oklahoma for a while, and then he realizes he's got to go somewhere different, right? There needed to be a change in his coaching career. He goes to Clemson, and he had a lot of opportunities at Clemson. I think the Auburn job was one that he had an opportunity for.
Yeah, that was something that he talked about, way back at that introductory press conference, right? That he could have gone to Auburn, but he wanted to wait on the right administration, yada, 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 all that kind of stuff.
And it comes down, Oklahoma comes available, and he waited, and this was always his dream job. And that's not to say that maybe, Mississippi State is Jeff Lebby's job, but I do think you can kind of read between the lines and saying like, hey, if you wait a little bit longer, maybe the perfect job eventually comes along for you or whoever it is. Because I do think that there's several coaches on the staff that could end up being head coaches at some point in their career or coordinators. I think you think of, Joe John Finley or DeMarco Murray.
Yeah, somebody asked me about DeMarco the other day. If his
name comes up a lot.
Does he
every
have
year.
aspirations to be an offensive play caller at some point in the near future in the college level, or maybe makes the jump to the NFL at some point? I don't know. I really don't. I don't know if that's something that he would. I know that he probably has some aspirations to be a head coach, just like a number of these guys. Bill Beatabose always had that rumor out there. Does he want to be a head coach or an offensive play caller? You think about the defensive side of the football, and there's a number of guys, whether it be a Brandon Hall, that he did call plays for Troy as the defense coordinator. So it's interesting, if nothing else, and certainly at this time of the year when all of these rumors start. It's always kind of one of those things. It's like, it's uncomfortable if you're probably an Oklahoma fan to think, oh God, they're coming after my guy. But you also that's part of the game. Like, you want that to happen.
And it just means that Brent's done a really good job of hiring a good staff.
Sure.
And if, somebody leaves, you have to have the faith that he'll go out and hire the right guy. You look at the one hire that he's made, he's made all the hires, right? But like the one hire he's made in the last year, Emmett Jones has come in and done a really good job at wide receiver. So you just kind of have the faith, like, look, if they win, if they go win a national championship in the next few years, it's going to be like Alabama and Georgia. Those staffs turn over every single year, and you just have to have the faith that Brent knows enough, which I think he does. Obviously, he's very well connected in the coaching circles, that he can go out and hire a great young coach or a veteran coach, whoever it may be, to come in and replace whoever you lose.
Well, and it's a lot like recruiting, what they're doing right now. And we've talked to Josh about this, time and time again on the Monday recruiting report show, just in terms of they have a resume. People want to come work for the program. They want to come play for the program. And it seems like it's, obviously pretty positive right now as Oklahoma tries to close the thing out and win 10 games, get to double digits. And we've talked about how important that is moving forward with everything that's to come here in the next couple of years in the SEC.
Yeah, you gotta finish out the season strong. Win these last two games. Again, we went over the Big 12 stuff. We'll see if they can get into the Big 12 championship game. If not, sounds like they could be in a really good bowl game. We'll see how that plays out as well. But everything seems to be heading in the right direction. I know the everything was falling apart just a couple weeks ago. And if they go lose to BYU on Saturday, you bet your ass there's gonna be some F-bombs.
We might not come back from Provo.
We may not come back. But as of right now, on Tuesday, things are looking good for Oklahoma. Again, it's always good when your staff is being mentioned in some of these circles, even though everybody wants to fire Jeff Lebby, at least from the fan base. He is somebody that is very well respected around the country in college football circles, so his name's going to continue to be out there, especially when OU's having the offensive success that they're having.
One of the 53 names, I believe.
57.
Or 57, excuse me. Well, there's 4 of those scumbags that probably don't have no chance to win it. But Jeff Lebby was named is it finalist or semifinalist for the Broyles Award?
I think it's just a nominee. He's just
a nominee, and then they cut it.
Yeah, then they'll cut it like next week, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and he's up for the Broyles Award. That came out on Tuesday as well.
I bet he's a semifinalist, too.
And we should have noted Drake Stoops. I can't remember if we did note this. A Burlsworth finalist, one of 3 names that is up for the Burlsworth. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. It was an award that Baker Mayfield won, known for, basically for Brandon Burlsworth, a walk-on at Arkansas. It's an award for walk-ons or guys that have started their career as walk-ons.
And I think he's got a really good shot at maybe winning it.
That'd be so cool.
Especially if he just keeps playing the way that he does, and OU keeps winning. I think he would have a really good chance at winning that award, which would be he would join Baker Mayfield as the only Oklahoma player to ever win it. And Baker won it, I believe, twice.
15 and 17, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
I'm probably wrong. You guys know that, though. That'll be cool if he could finish that off. And I think that they do something over at the Fayetteville Touchdown Club or somebody puts it on. They have a big do about that. So look forward to that. 2 games left in the schedule. Make sure that if you want to see our instant reaction on the Big 12 tiebreaker stuff, we did do a separate video for that right here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel. That was a vibe on Saturday, wasn't it? And McCaid Matlock is the vibe as well. I think he's earned a lot of Oklahoma fans' respect for sticking up for Drake Stoops the way that he did and getting kicked out of the game on Saturday night. So we'll be back on Wednesday for the unofficial 40. We'll be back on Thursday for the opponent preview with BYU. I think we have a pretty good guest lined up with Max Olson from The Athletic, one of our good buddies. We saw him up in Lawrence a couple weeks ago. So for George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich from the Soonerscoop.com studios on Campus Quarter. We will talk to you Thursday.